Mists of Pandaria is fast approaching, and today I'm going to be going over all the recent news that this version of the game has received, so you can be caught up on everything which is going on. When compared to Cataclysm already, to me it's clear that Mists of Pandaria appears to be getting more support, and definitely a more hands-on approach from Blizzard. This is probably in part due to Season of Discovery winding down now, so the Classic team has more time to make these adjustments. But there has already been a bunch of pretty large changes confirmed to make Mock Classic that little bit different this second time around. The changes are also happening at a super fast pace on the beta at the moment, and there are unexpected modifications happening on a weekly basis to all kinds of systems within the game. So there is a lot to cover here compared to how Blizzard approached previous expansions, from entirely brand new features, class changes, PvP updates, and tons more. It's exciting to see how much they're trying to alter Mists of Pandaria to improve the experience, and I'm sure there will be more to follow before the pre-patch arrives. So let's cover all the news you might have missed from the Mists of Pandaria beta, from the smaller bits of news to some of the larger ones as well. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, GoGo Muffin. If you're looking for a relaxing yet adventurous mobile MMO, GoGo Muffin is what you're after, and they're now doing a new collaboration with Neon Genesis Evangelion. Set in a cozy fantasy world, GoGo Muffin offers a laid-back leveling system with the option to battle manually or go idle. Whether you're exploring dungeons solo or teaming up with 4 to 6 players in raids, the game delivers a blend of progression and cooperative strategy that fits perfectly into any schedule. In this limited time EVA event, iconic EVA characters like Shinji, Asuka, Rei, and Kaworu cross over into the world of GoGo Muffin. You'll take on echoes of Battlefield, a new gameplay mode where you summon EVA characters to fight powerful enemies on your behalf, and they all look great in chibi. Just look at Rei's calm demeanor or Asuka's iconic attitude. They're now mini and adorable, but still full of personality. Successfully completing stages earns you event-exclusive rewards, including outfits, avatar frames, trails, and more, with a free draw for every outfit giving you a trial version to test out. So there really has never been a better time to jump in. You can download GoGo Muffin now and join the EVA collab event, and experience the world of Midgard like never before. The collaboration is already live as well, so use my link below to download GoGo Muffin and break through the AT field. Many thanks to GoGo Muffin for the sponsor today. Let's get on back to WoW. First is, of course, a pretty big one in case you've somehow missed it, is that we now know the pre-patch and release date for Mock Classic. So the pre-patch for Mock will take place on July 1st. This is when the new talent system and class balancing will come into the game. Monks will also be available to level on pre-patch, as well as, of course, the new race Pandaren. The full release of Mists of Pandaria Classic, when we can venture on to Pandaria again, will be on July 21st. So we're looking at a pretty standard 3-week pre-patch into the expansion launch. In terms of getting caught up on a first character or returning for Mists of Pandaria, there is some news here as well. If you've defeated the first boss in the Scarlet Enclave raid in Season of Discovery, Balnazar, you will receive a free character boost once the pre-patch of Mop hits. I kind of see this as Blizzard saying, okay, we're slowing things down on Season of Discovery now. If you've played more or less all the content, here's a free character boost so you can go and try Mists of Pandaria, since Mop is much more similar to SOD gameplay-wise than any other version of Classic we have going at the moment. And I bet a lot of those SOD players would have difficulty now going back to any standard version of Vanilla because there were so many class changes. You should also know this level boost can be used on a Monk when the pre-patch hits. A Monk in Mop, unless they change anything, can be any race apart from Goblin or Worgen. However, you won't be able to boost a Pandaren, and you'll have to start from level 1 as per usual. Joyous Journeys is now also active on Cataclysm Realms, which is a 50% experience buff to all activities in the game while leveling, so that'll be a lot faster. The ICC style player buffs have also started on SOD Realms for Scarlet Enclave, where each week players are going to get a bit more powerful, so you should see more pugs forming there to try and get a quick Balnazar kill for the free boost. However, you're still going to need some level of gear and preparation to defeat this boss consistently. I don't really think you're going to be walking in there as a fresh 60 with no gear and actually getting a kill. For most people, if you haven't played on SOD for a long time, I'd just start leveling on Cataclysm now. Again, there's the 50% XP buff at the moment on top of heirlooms and the LFD, so things are about as easy as they're going to get. Blizzard did say Joyous Journeys would go away with the pre-patch on a blue post though, but who knows, again this could change. Reputations are expected to be a bit of a pain point in MoP, so Blizz have already come forwards and made adjustments to how you will progress this area of content, so it's faster on your main as well as your ults. You're still going to be doing a bunch of dailies early on into Mists of Pandaria, kind of similar to how Tolbarad was super important early on in Kata, but then you'll be done faster too. So the Grand Commendations, which were originally from the first major content patch, will be available straight away. This makes it so you can get a token that increases your rep gain on ults by 100% when one character has Revered. The Shadowpan and August Celestial dailies won't require Revered with the Golden Lotus anymore. Valor Shoulders from a bunch of factions have been lowered from Revered down to Honored. Pandaria cooking items are easier to get and you can make more of them. Your ults can learn Cloud Serpent Riding once your main has exalted with that faction, and then they go on to confirm a bunch of items that will become available either later on during the first patch or during later content patches to match when they were originally added. Since the first set of raid testing has taken place in Mogish and Vaults, Blizzard have rolled out their first round of class changes, notably buffing underperformers such as Ret or Balance Druid, and shifting up the healing meta significantly by nerfing Discipline Priest and Resto Shaman, whilst buffing all other healers. The biggest changes we're going to see so far in the meta of MoP will be to healers for sure. Raids were very much set to stack, at least on 25 player, 2 Disc and 2 Resto Shaman, and then the 5th healer was Resto Druid or Mistweaver, but eventually they'll be phased out and go DPS. And it would be similar on 10 player raids where you're going to heavily prefer Resto Shaman Discipline Priests. And the thing that made these 2 healers so amazing in MoP is that A, they had absolutely incredible utility and cooldowns, and B, they also did amazing healing. So they've toned down their healing, but their utility is still fantastic. So if you're planning to play Resto Shaman or Discipline Priest in MoP, I think you're still pretty much guaranteed to have a raid spot, but you're not going to be as stackable as you previously were. They also say they plan to amend classes as patches go on to match their power level for the appropriate point in the expansion. Again, for example, with the changes, Blizzard just buffed Affliction Lock by a lot, which as we know with how they scale at the moment seems absolutely crazy, but I'd expect this to be one of the buffs which is rolled back as we progress through the expansion. For me at the moment, I'm not going to rush to make a video about everything that's changed as soon as possible. This is just the first round of testing, and since Blizzard's first post they've already changed more things. I'd rather wait until they're done with all the raid testing and class changes, which has hopefully happened by the time the pre-patch is here, and then do one big video on everything that's changed and how the meta has been impacted. On top of that, if I wait, I'll actually see how these classes are now performing when people are doing raid tests, looking at their raid logs. Overall though, again, I think it's the healing meta which is going to be most changed. All tanks are looking in a good spot, and for DPS they appear to be buffing the underperformers rather than nerfing the top classes. Again, things are changing here really fast, but once raid testing is done and the pre-patch is out, I'll do a full video on everything that's changed. Next up, flying mounts will be available easily for ults in Mists of Pandaria. So this is very much in line with changes made to flying back in Wrath of the Lich King, where Blizzard don't want to restrict your ults from flying for too long. In original MoP, you had to level all the way to 90 on foot before you could get flying, and as nice as the open world is in this expansion with how much people play ults these days, I don't think that would have gone down particularly well. So in MoP Classic, once you have one character at level 90 who has learned Pandaria flying, they will then be able to buy a tome for 1,350 gold, which they can send straight to an ult so they can learn Pandaria flying as well. A pretty huge quality of life buff, and one that's going to help your ults out massively. Raid Finder, which has so far been absent from Classic from when it should have been reintroduced in Dragon Soul, will not be coming back for MoP Classic. I want to just quickly go over what Blizzard commented on this. In 2011, raiding was a relatively niche activity, largely limited to organised guild groups that expected a fixed raiding schedule, and pickup groups doing current content were non-existent on most realms. Thus, the development team decided to introduce Raid Finder towards the end of Kata to make raiding more accessible, despite recognising that it would weaken some social bonds because so few people were actually getting to face the Lich King or see Ragnar Ragnaros after playing through the Molten Front content. Classic progression realms have evolved differently over the last 5 years than original WoW did from 2007 to 12. Classic players have built a robust and consistent raiding ecosystem, and we believe that moving into Mod Classic without a raid finder system will set the stage for a stronger raiding community to emerge. Basically, so many more people are raiding now than they were back in the day, Blizzard just don't feel the need to intervene and add LFR back in. Now, to be honest, I've been pretty clear about LFR. I don't like it personally, and I haven't been shy about saying that, but I never thought they would actually remove it either. It would have been good enough for me if somebody who is actively raiding, especially heroic raiding, didn't feel as though they had to go and do LFR because the rewards were worth it. Also, to be honest, how long do you think the queues will be if so many more people are actively raiding now? I mean, how big is the overall classic population in Mists of Pandaria compared to original? It's definitely going to be a lot smaller, and I remember back in the day still waiting 30 minutes on DPS. Either way, LFR is gone, so what happens to all the LFR gear then? Well, the answer is the new Pandaria Celestial Dungeons. These are a new additional difficulty tier for 5-player content, which will be selectable from the Dungeon Finder tool. These are designed for players who are ready to move beyond heroic dungeons. You'll see occasional raid level mechanics and enemies in these dungeons, including appearances from bosses of the current raid tier. Think something similar to the Titan rune system in Wrath or Protocol Inferno during Kata, where you have your heroics, but they're a bit more difficult with an extra mechanic or so and offer better gear as a result. So the gear will be an upgrade over your regular heroic dungeons, and will include items that used to drop in Raid Finder. There will be items that will be target farmable as well as random drops, and currency dropped by bosses can be used to purchase a variety of items. You'll be able to progress your legendary quest in these dungeons too instead of needing to raid, and Celestial Dungeons will grow with each raid tier. Throne of Thunder and Siege of Orgrimmar will bring new threats and rewards to the Celestial Dungeons, and previous tier rewards will also remain available. These Celestial Dungeons will go live 2 weeks after Mogashan Vaults opens, giving players some time to explore the raid before checking them out. I still feel it's a bit odd to just straight up remove a way to play the game in LFR, even if I'm not a fan of it, but hopefully these Celestial Dungeons will fill the gap. These types of updated dungeons for me have been an absolute win throughout both Wrath and Kata so far, so I'm glad they're expanding on this area of content. I know specifically for MoP there are already challenge modes for new dungeon-based content, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really think they have a ton of replayability because they don't give gear upgrades. Most people are gonna do them once for gold, they're going to get their transmog and other stuff and then just move on. I don't think that many people are going to be pushing for time. So there we go, LFR is gone, but more dungeon content instead that will scale up with newer raid tiers. This allows you to keep up to speed with gear and progress your legendary quest line too. There are a few more benefits as well, I think. It's expanding endgame gearing beyond just raiding. It's 5-player, so queues won't be as much of a problem as they would have been with LFR, I think, and it's something you can hop on and do fast at any point in time whenever you want. With LFR, or raiding in general for that matter, it's once a week and then you're done. With dungeons, you can do them however much you want to. So overall, this seems like a good addition to the game, and I'm definitely interested in trying these out. A brand new set of mounts have been added to the Celestial Dungeons as well, which will represent the 4 August Celestials of MoP. At the moment, the Tiger, Serpent and Ox will drop randomly from bags that can be bought for 10 August Stone fragments each, and the Crane is from an achievement for completing one of each Celestial Dungeon. I have to say the childhood dream of owning the Swift Spectral Tiger is more or less there, but all of these mounts look pretty amazing to be honest. At the moment though, these are only set to drop on Mists of Pandaria Classic realms and won't be available on retail, which is going to get a very mixed response. On one hand, it is kind of cool to have unique rewards to Classic, and in Mists of Pandaria there are also the challenge mode transmogs, which despite MoP Remix happening, still are not available in retail. On the other hand, collection is a way larger aspect of the game on retail, and if these mounts were available on both games, you know it would get a lot of people to try out MoP Classic out of interest for farming these. So I don't really see why they wouldn't offer them to both versions of the game really. Anyway, that's how things are at the moment. There have also been a bunch of changes made to the PvP scene in Mists of Pandaria 2 that should help players of all levels. First of all, there will be a rolling conquest cap, similar to how Valor worked in Cataclysm. This means, for example, if we are 3 weeks weeks into the season, the cap for Conquest will be 3 weeks worth, instead of you being permanently stuck behind and only able to earn 1 week's worth of Conquest at a time. Gladiator and Rank 1 titles will return for both the 2v2 and 5v5 brackets. Especially in 2s, this should increase activity. Flat cutoffs instead of percentage ones will be added for Gladiator and Rank 1. This should be more beneficial when we have a smaller player base. Players who are skilled enough to have multiple characters at the Gladiator range will now only count for 1 slot total. So in almost every WoW Classic season we've seen so far, there have been people with multiple alts taking up spaces here, so this is just going to free up some room for some extra people to earn those rewards. Another good change. Base resilience will be set to 62% for Season 12 and 40% for characters below level 90. Battle fatigue is set to 30% for Season 12. One thing I have seen in MOP so far from watching people play on the beta is that the games do go kinda long, so this seems to be positively received as well so far. Finally, PvE gear will be maximum item level 473 inside of instance PvP, and PvP items will be unaffected by any item level change. This means if you are a pure PvP enjoyer, the need to raid for gear should be greatly, if not totally for some classes, removed. Maybe there's still the odd OP trinket here and there for certain specs, but overall this means you can focus way more on just PvPing for upgrades. Overall, these seem to be an amazing set of changes for PvP players. Also, you should know the class changes we talked about before, those won't be affecting PvP either, they are purely for the PvE scene. So Mists of Pandaria as a legendary PvP expansion may just be even that bit better the second time around. And that is all the Mists of Pandaria news we have at the moment leading up to launch, though I'm sure more is to follow. Let me know your thoughts on everything they've changed down below. Are you happy with what they've done, or is this not really Mists of Pandaria anymore? And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.